Calling the Human Services 3 p.m. calendar. This meeting will include a 3 p.m. calendar and decision-making on the previous 1:15 calendar of House and Human Services agenda. We'll begin today's agenda with HB 1945 HB1 to allow the ASL interpreter to lead after all testimony and questions have been taken for this measure. Okay, present with me is Senator Ocasio. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 3:01 p.m. March 22nd, 2022 in conference room 225 and via video conference. And a public notice will be posted on the legislator's website. Your audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. Each testifier will have 2 minutes to testify. If there is a technical glitch during your time to testify, we may have to move on to the next person due to time constraints. We appreciate your understanding and we remind you that the committee has your written testimony. I'll be reading a list of individuals who submitted written testimony for each measure. We apologize if the closed captioning does not accurately transcribe the names. If you're interested in reviewing the written testimony, please go to the legislator's website and you'll find a link on the status page for the measure. I'm going to do my best because we do have some live witnesses here to call out the in-person witnesses first. And then we go on to the Zoom people who have registered to do a Zoom testimony. So we are going to be calling on HB 1945 relating to the Neighbor Islands Blind and Visually Impaired Service Pilot Program. This requires the Department of Human Services to establish a Neighbor Islands Blind and Visually Impaired Service Pilot Program that provides training and other services to blind or visually impaired individuals residing on the neighbor islands. Requires a report to the legislator, appropriates funds, effective July 1, 2060. So first up on HB 1945 is Ronald Formata. Ronald, he registered to testify in person. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, we don't have anybody else registered to testify in person. Anybody present here who wants to testify on HB 1945, the Blind and Deaf Task Force. Okay, so moving on to Zoom. Next, we have HMS DVR, Department of Human Services, providing comments. I see Leah Diaz. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Leah Diaz with the Department of Human Services. We've submitted written testimony with comments and we'll stand on that, and I'll be here for any questions.
Okay, next up we have on Zoom, Brandon Young in support. Is Brandon Young present? Okay, next up we have Donald Sakamoto in support on Zoom. Donald? Okay, next up we have Virgil Stinnett in support on Zoom. Nope. And next up we have Katie Kime in support on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair San Buenaventura. I'm Katie Kime. Am I live and on camera with you?
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much for hearing me this afternoon. My name is Katie Kime. I'm representing myself and standing in full support of my testimony, but as a note of record, I'm also an elected officer of the Board of Directors of the National Federation of the Blind, and I stand on our testimony submitted by our Director of Legislation, James Gashel. A few key points I'd like to make. This bill would be a critical improvement to our blind and low vision neighbors to the island of Oahu. There are very limited services in the Department of Human Services for our blind residents outside of Oahu, and we would like to help supplement and support the good work that they do. In addition, there are 9 key points of our legislative bill, and one of the key ones is outreach to outreach training, which is qualified volunteers who are blind themselves working with other blind people. One of the strongest impacts on my personal life when I became blind at 36 was the mentoring I received from qualified, successful blind people. There are many people in our neighbor islands who cannot travel, leave their homes, or do not intend to go to work, which is a lot of what Ho'opono services are about. Although there are services for individuals 55 years and older in the Department of Human Services, they have very limited staff. And our intention is to help support them and supplement what is a great service to our blind in Hawaii. Just as a point of note, in the NFB's testimony, we have submitted to WHAM on the appropriations, a $25,000 appropriations amount that would enable the Department of Human Services to take a year in planning the pilot program so that we could move forward further with the appropriate appropriations to implement the program. I thank you for your time this afternoon, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
No, no one else having registered to testify on Zoom. Those who have provided written testimony are Carolyn Kadirao, Office of Aging and Support, Kirby Shaw, Disability and Communication Access Board and Support, Craig Hirai, Department of Budget and Finance, providing comments, Hawaii Disability Rights Center, Louis Urchik, and support, Donald Thompson, Hawaii Association of the Blind, and support, Stan Young, Hawaii State Committee of Blind Vendors, and support, and James Gashel, National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii, and support. Also, we have Joel Shaw in support, Hoku Boros in support, Lenny Ebisutani in support, and Jacqueline Borsa in support. Anybody else on Zoom or in person wishing to testify on HB 1945? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions of our only witness? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. And since we don't have any more deafblind task force bills, we are going to excuse the ASL interpreter unless there's anybody else in the following bills who would need one. Okay, seeing no other need, thank you very much. We will excuse the ASL interpreter. And we're going to move on to our regular calendar, which is HB 1745, appropriating funds to support Hawaii's food bank. Appropriates funds to help Hawaii's food bank meet the significantly heightened need for food assistance during the COVID-19 epidemic. First up, in person, we have Brian Miyamoto testifying for Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair San Bonaventura, Vice Chair Ihara, and members of the committee, or Senator Acosta just walked up. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We support this measure, and we thank you and thank the legislature for taking up this measure. Food insecurity was here before the pandemic. It increased dramatically during the pandemic, and it's still here towards what appears to be the end of the pandemic. We believe this is a meager ask by our state food banks to support our families, our friends, and our neighbors. One of the benefits of the pandemic from food insecurity was that our farmers and ranchers lost majority of the markets, if not all. That's not a benefit. But it did create a strong partnership with our food banks who purchased produce and proteins from our farmers and ranchers who had nowhere to sell. Some of them would have stopped producing the agricultural products that we want here in the state of Hawaii. So we become strong supporters of the Hawaii food banks, and we ask that the legislature continue to support them and understand this funding is specific for the COVID-19 pandemic. that we're still recovering from. Now we add on a 40-year high of inflation. Our families, our friends, our neighbors are still struggling. But we do ask in the future that legislature consider dedicated funding every year to support our food banks. Many of the federal dollars have disappeared. The philanthropic dollars have decreased, but food insecurity is still here, and we do need to continue to support our food banks. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, we don't have anyone else registering to testify in person. Anybody present who wishes to testify in person? Okay, next we will go to the Zoom. First up, we have Hawaii Office of Community Services and Support. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair San Buenaventura, Vice Chair Ihara, and members of the Senate Committee. My office have submitted our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Therefore, I will not read it verbatim to this committee. I would just like to point out and express my gratitude to this committee, particularly to Chair, when the similar measure was heard by your committee, the Senate Bill 2169, which you have amended to put 5% admin for OCS. But with the initial amount of 2 million, I felt that it was a very generous amount. And therefore, when this 1745 was heard by the House Committee on Pandemic Preparedness and Disaster, I said that I think a small amount of 1% would suffice, with in mind, of course, that it is very important to make sure, being true to the intended purpose of the bill, is to have as much funding as possible going into the food purchase segment of the intended funding. And my office have approached a similar measure in the past when federal funding is available, and the opportunity to convert an admin funding into the food purchase allocation. My office took that approach in order to ensure, again, being true to the intended purpose of the bill of providing food security to those who are in need, especially with the lingering effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. Under that note, I thank you for the opportunity to testify, Madam Chair, and I'll be here for any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up that registered on Zoom is Hawaii Food Industry Association, Lauren Zerbel, and support. Ms. Zerbel. Okay, next up we have Aloha Care, Peggy Mirzwa, for Community and Government Relations and support. Ms., please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Peggy Mirzwa with Aloha Care. We stand in strong support of this measure. The previous testifiers went over many of the reasons why our community is still in great need, and prices continue to rise. And the food banks have played a crucial role keeping many, many folks afloat, and they continue to need to do so. So thank you so much for supporting this measure, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Ulupono Initiative and support.
Good afternoon, Chair San Buenaventura, Vice Chair Ihara, members of the committee, Micah Munikata, on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We'd like to stand on our testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And next one, we have Hawaii Food Bank, Laura K. Rand, in support. Okay, anyone else on Zoom wishing to testify on HB 1745? Okay, seeing none. What we have written comments from Budget of Finance, Maui County Council, Alice Lee Chair, individually in support. City and County of Honolulu of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resiliency, Matthew Gosner in support. We also have, is Ulupono Initiative there that Micah Muneta.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did testify, I'm sorry.
Just testified, Chair, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Hawaii Primary Care Association in support, Hawaii Hunger Action Network in support, Pono Chong, Hawaii Association of Health Plans in support, Jonathan Ching, Kaiser Permanente in support, David Herden, Executive Vice President of HMSA in support, Chief Point of View in support, Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, Heather Lusk in support, Dan Kochi, Public Workers, AXME Local 646 in support, Ryan Kusumoto of PAC in support, Hawaii Food Basket in support, Wes Pereira of Hawaii Food Bank Hawaii in support, Amanda Fernandez, Hawaii Public Health Institute in support, Randy Pereira, HGA in support, Dara Carlin in support, Beth Tokioka in support, and Lori Yoshida in support. Anybody else wishing to testify on HB 1745? Questions, members? I have a question. You're with Food Bank, right? Come on in.
Sure, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Oh, your Farm Bureau.
Food Bank is on Zoom.
No, they're not. Oh, yeah, that's right. They are, maybe. Okay, I
Chair
see
San
Melissa.
Buenaventura, this is Melissa Pavlicek, and I know that our Hawaii Food Bank representative lost connectivity. Is there something I can help with?
Yes, okay. So on the Senate bill version, and I may be asking, you know what, let me ask DLIR first. Giovanni, Mr. De La Cruz, are you still there?
Oh, yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, so when we did the Senate bill version, and you testify that you don't need the 5%, now you're down to 1%, and you testify that you would rather have as much of the administrative, that you don't want any or hardly any administrative funds allocated for administration, but as much to food purchase as possible, right?
That is
So,
correct, Madam.
on the Senate bill version, we allocated 10% to be allocated per county based on the county's proportional share of the state's poverty population as set forth in the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates United States Census Bureau safety formula. Do we need to do that? Do we need to allocate anything for administrative?
Yes, Madam Chair. The 1% that I was talking about was just for OCS. Now, because in this House bill version does not specify what's the allocation will be for the so-called service provider or the food bank's admin portion.
Okay, so let me go talk to the food bank. Okay, Ms. Pavlicek, do you folks need any allocation for your administrative purposes, or do you think you guys can fundraise your own monies for administrative purposes, and we can allocate everything except for 1% towards food purchases?
Senator, we do need the flexibility to be able to cover the cost of delivering the food. And I know Laura K. Rand from the Hawaii Food Bank is with us on this call. I'm not sure if she's having trouble unmuting herself, but the way the bill is currently written gives us the greatest ability to provide the delivery of the services. And the
Okay,
food.
so I see Laura Rand.
Yes, hi, good
Hi,
afternoon. Good afternoon,
Okay,
Chair.
so that's my question.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference between the Senate version and the House version,
Yeah,
is that we've allocated monies for administration.
yes.
Do you need
it's-
that allocation?
Operation support, yes, that was the key request in this bill for operating support, which still gives us the option of using it for food purchase, but doesn't limit it to that. That way we're able to do things like pay fuel bills and keep the trucks going, rent additional trucks, we're already starting to see the need pick up again with the current inflation prices, especially gas. We're starting to see additional food go out and additional people coming to different distributions, and to have that flexibility to rent another truck and get it moving with food that we've got while we're purchasing additional food would be most helpful for us to remain flexible to support the community.
Okay, so it's your request. Okay, because I'm looking at the HB version. It just has a blank amount for 2022 to 2023 for operational support.
Right.
And you believe that by just using the phrase operational support, that is enough, that is the kind of flexibility. So the state then takes a risk that you folks are just going to use everything for administration instead of food purchase.
That's not the way that our model works. That's not the way that our entire history of food distribution has worked. And over these past couple of years, it's been very clearly demonstrated that we use food purchase as part of the mechanism to move food out, but it is not the sole way we get food out. We are still moving food from potential waste streams from the retailers, wholesalers, and manufacturers, inspecting it here to make sure what is safe, what is not safe, and moving that food out also. We're also currently working to expand those additional donated channels. The idea being we want to have as much food flowing into the community as the households that need it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. De La Cruz.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, so you know my concern, the big difference between HB 1745 and the Senate version is on the Senate version, we actually allocated only 10%, and we've actually even limited it that based upon the SAIFI formula for administration. The food banks, on the other hand, want the ability to use as much as they can, if necessary, and we need to trust them on that for administration and operation. What is the state's position? Should we limit it to 10% based upon the SAIFI formula, or should we trust the food banks?
Madam Chair, if I may, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Now, for the use of the SAIFI formula is used to, we use it in our Office of Community Services to allocate the funding available on each county. Now, to my understanding, the way we operate at least the emergency food assistance program from the feds, and also the other federal fundings that we have, prescribe a percentage on what is set aside for admin. And we use that as a guide to then allocate that portion. I was when we did the testimony for the Senate version, we were operating on how we are envisioning to operate it, and to make sure that the groundwork, the foundation, and how the program is structured is structurally sound, so that we don't run into problem when we administer it. As for example, if we don't have a prescribed percentage of how much could be used for admin, when we administer it, how do we then determine what is allowable of admin as to what is allocated to the
okay, so Mr. De La Cruz, let's cut to the chase. So should we limit the amount of administrative costs, or leave it on the blank version right here?
It will be very helpful, Madam Chair, towards administration if we have a prescribed number.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on. Thank you very much. And next up, we have 1754, Adult Dental Medicaid Benefits. Appropriates funds to restore diagnostic, preventive, and restorative dental benefits to adult Medicaid enrollees, provided that the Department of Human Services obtains maximum federal matching funds available and pursues all funding sources, including private grants, prior to expending any general fund appropriations. First up, we have Matthew Sasaki, Assistant Vice President, testifying for HMSA and support.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. HMSA has submitted comments in support of this measure. We would like to note the importance of oral health for total health. We do respectfully ask for the consideration that the funding for this measure be placed in the executive budget if possible. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have Don Stand in support. Please proceed.
Mahalo, distinguished senators, Chair Senator Joy, thank you. Senator Vice Chair Ihara, thank you for your time and attention on this amazing opportunity that is the reinstatement of adult dental Medicaid benefit. I am Dr. Don Sand, and I'm very heavily invested in the well-being of our Hawaiian population as a fourth generation Kama'aina. I am the great nephew of Senator Joe R. Itagaki, a member of the House of Territorial Representatives who later on became a Hawaii territorial senator. We've all been our family in medicine until he died and until today. So we're coming full circle. My father and two uncles served with the Go for Broke 442nd Combat Regime. Today, I feel our battle is not in Ukraine. It's here against oral disease against the barriers to restore oral health of our underserved and our kupuna. I'm a practicing dentist for 27 years of clinical experience, 20 in California, but I've now practiced 7 years in the community health centers of Oahu, in Lanai, as a provider and also as a dental director at Ko'olauloa Health. I have firsthand knowledge of the devastating effects that this 12-year loss of adult dental Medicaid has had on the oral health of our uninsured and underinsured. And while working in this community healthcare model, I've been able to visit and consult with 7 of the 14 community healthcare centers, including Molokai, Lanai, Maui.
Mr. Sand, we need you to wrap up.
Okay. Okay, I'll skip the part about a coalition of private practicing the heroes that are taking private practice Medicaid outside of the community healthcare center. And you guys read the testimony that I submitted about all the devastating effects. I want to thank you for allowing me to share my mana'o on the front lines of this battle. Thank you for all the stakeholders, the advocates, Department of Human Services, the legislators for writing support and funding this bill. To each of you who here in this room and remotely have had a hand in this sacred opportunity to restore the healthy smiles to our deserving members of Ohana, I hope that in the brave tradition of the 442nd Combat Regime, we will support option 2 that is needed to deploy a smart battle against oral disease in our islands.
Okay, thank you very much. Everything is in support, so.
Yes.
Okay, so next up, we have anyone else in person wishing to testify on HB 1754. Okay, please identify yourself and be aware of the 2-minute time.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Senators, and other committee in this room. Hello, my name is Kylie Swan. I'm a Hawaii Self-Advocacy Advisory Council for people with intellectual disabilities. I stand on testimony support of this House Bill 1754 because I don't want to get my teeth pulled out. Thank you, and I'm available for any question that you have. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else in person wishing to testify on HB 1754? Okay, so in Zoom, we have MedQuest, Department of Human Service, State of Hawaii. Is Judy Moore Peterson there? In support, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I'm Judy Moore Peterson. I'm the MedQuest administrator. And on behalf of the Department of Human Services, we strongly support the intent of the restoration of the adult dental benefits for the Medicaid program. We do respectfully request that this get appropriated within the executive budget and not through the bill, so that they can be sustained over the long term within the overall base budget. Thank you very much for this opportunity to testify, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, that has registered to testify on Zoom, we have Melissa Pavlicek for Hawaii Dental Association and support. Please proceed, Ms. Pavlicek.
Thank you. The Hawaii Dental Association stands in strong support of funding adult dental Medicaid. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have Aloha Care, Peggy Mirzwa in support. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Aloha Care supports this measure, much like Dr. G. Moore Peterson's comments. We would respectfully request you add it to the executive budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have Hawaii Public Health Institute and Hawaii Oral Health Coalition, Patrick Donnelly in support. Please proceed.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair Sam Buenaventura and members of the committee. Patrick Donnelly, Statewide Oral Health Coalition Manager for Hawaii Public Health Institute. We've submitted written testimony and strong support. Just wanted to add a couple comments. Given that adults on Medicaid have gone so long without the core preventive and restorative coverage, we believe that funding for the basic level coverage wouldn't be sufficient enough to address the high needs of this population. We believe that funding that's more in line with the amount reflected by DHS for an option 2 would be able to provide more adequate level of care. And additionally, in effort to avoid returning to the legislature every single year, we believe that funding for this coverage should be, through the state budget would encourage more sustainable continuity of services moving forward. So we really, truly appreciate all the work and consideration from you and the committee that's gone into this issue, and respectfully urge careful consideration for what vehicle and services provide the greatest level of care to the greatest number of residents in Hawaii. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to testify today.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, no one else having registered to testify on Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to testify on HB 1754? Okay, we have a number of written testimony. University of Hawaii in support. That's Jerry Hedges, Lee Buen Consejo Alum, all in support. Daintree Bartolidis in support for State Council on Developmental Disability. Carolyn Kadirao, the Department of Health Executive Office of Aging in support. Craig Hirai, Department of Budget and Finance, providing comments. Louis Urchet, Hawaii Disability Rights Center in support. ARP Adri Suga Nakagawa in support. Open Hawaii Grassroots Rep Nancy Partika in support. And Open stands for Oral Health Progress and Equity Network. Hawaii Health Committee of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. Hawaii Children Actions Network in support. Ho'ola Lahui in support. Hawaii Primary Care Association support. United Healthcare in support. Hawaii Association of Health in support. ACOG in support. Americans for Democratic Action support. Hawaii Dental Service in support. Kaiser Permanente in support. Hawaii Self-Advocacy Advisory Council support. Hawaii Dental Hygienists Association support. Catholic Charities in support. Papa Ola Lokahi in support. Ohana Health Plan in support. Waimanawa Health Center in support. Queens Health Center in support. Ahahui o na Kauka Association of Native Hawaiian Physicians in support. Parents and Children Together in support. Hawaii Medical Association support. Kokua Kalihi Valley Comprehensive Family Services in support. Oral Health Progress and Equity Network. Ms. Johnson in support. Andrew Sue in support. Tercia Ku in support. Melanie Macon in support, and 22 other individuals all in support. Nobody in opposition. Anybody here wishing to testify again? Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you all for your support of this bill. Okay, we're moving on. HB 1824, which is, excuse me, making an appropriation for the Office of Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Appropriates funds for the Office of Long-Term Care Ombudsman for Ombudsman Program Specialist positions effective July 1, 2060. First up on HB 1824, we have Carolyn Cuddy-Rao, Executive Office on Aging on Zoom. But before we do Zoom, I'm sorry, Carolyn, anybody here present wishing to testify on HB 1824? Okay, seeing none. So Carolyn, you're up.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair San Buenaventura, Vice Chair Leslie Hara, and members of the committee. Carolyn Cuddy-Rao here with the Executive Office on Aging, providing comments on this measure. We're very grateful that this measure has made it this far, and it provides an unspecified amount for the long-term care ombudsman program to provide for program specialists within the Executive Office on Aging. As you are all aware from our testimony, this helps to support our most frail older adults within the community. I just want to note that we do have in the administration's budget a request for 2 full-time equivalents that have been increased to 5 full-time equivalents in House Bill 1600 HD1. And we're very grateful for this budget bill, but we do ask and recommend that if HB 1824 HD1 can continue in the unlikely chance that something changes within the admin bill, we'd be very grateful. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, also having registered to testify on Zoom is our state long-term care ombudsman, John McDermott, in support. Okay, John. Okay, there you are. Please proceed.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair San Buenaventura and Vice Chair Ihara and members of the committee, and happy St. Patrick's Day. So you have our testimony, and so we are, of course, in strong support of an ombudsman for Kauai, for Maui, for Hilo, for Kona, and one more for Oahu. So thank you for your past support, and we will rest on our testimony and available for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, nobody else having registered to testify. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to testify on HB 1824? Okay, those who are providing written testimony are Department of Budget and Finance providing comments, Hawaii County Office of Aging, William Farr in support, Executive Director for Alzheimer's Association in support, Mauna Lani Nursing and Rehab Center in support, Long-Term Care Ombudsman Gerald Arns in support, Hawaii Disability Rights Center, Louis Urchik in support, Long-Term Care Ombudsman Jean Davidson in support, AARP, Audrey Suga Nakagawa in support, Gary Simon, Babea in support, Protect Leahi and Maluhia Ohana in support, Kokua Council in support, and we've got 11 other individuals who are John Tomoso, Rick Tabor, Jamel Dulduwal, Dr. Margaret Perkinson, Jacqueline Gardner, Brent Fremont, Sharon Young, Lynn Nitani, Marilyn Seeley, Clarence Agena, and Gerard Silva, all in support. Anybody else wishing to testify on HB 1824? Members, any questions? Okay, Senator Misalucha.
I have a question for John.
Mr. McDermott, can you get back on? You have a question.
Okay, so how do I get back on?
IT, can you allow Mr. McDermott to come back on?
Yes. Okay, yay, I'm back on.
Aloha, Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
So in your testimony, you actually alluded to how APS or UHCA will not be duplicating the efforts of the proposed 5 new ombudsmen. Could you clarify that a little bit? Because you said that OHCA's focus is on annual inspection.
Right.
But
so
could you clarify that for us
Sure.
as far as the roles and responsibilities, where the demarcation lines are?
Sure. So the Department of Health has their Office of Healthcare Assurance, and there's actually kind of 2 branches. One part does the nursing homes and care homes, that's headed by Susan Weinhardt. And then the part that does care homes, foster homes, assisted living is headed by Justin Lamb. And so their focus is to do an annual inspection, so once a year. And they also will follow up on complaints that they received. But if they don't receive a complaint, they don't go back in. Adult Protective Services, their focus is on abuse and neglect, and they have their own screening process so that if it doesn't rise to whatever parameters they require, then they do not investigate that. So with the Ombudsman program, we have volunteers that go into a facility on a weekly basis so that the resident establishes a relationship, a rapport, a trust, because initially people are very much afraid of complaining. They fear retaliation. They fear somebody may kick them out and not take them back. And so it takes a while for our kapuna to feel comfortable enough to bring up their complaints. And so you really do need to have that kind of a relationship. And the advantage of having somebody from the neighbor island, went to your high school, knows your family, knows the same people you do, right away, that opens up communication. So it really is essential that we have staff on the neighbor islands.
But do they collaborate? Do they align? Do they discuss cases?
Well, when
in
the Office of Healthcare Assurance, before they go into a nursing home, they do call up our office to find out if we have any concerns. So if we know that we've brought a certain issue to the administrator multiple times and the administrator is just not following up, that's something we probably would share with the state surveyors so that they can follow up on that. If there are residents who have complaints and are pretty vocal when the state surveyors are choosing who they're going to use as their sample, because they're not going to talk to everybody in the facility, we might suggest a name or two that they should consider because those residents are very akamai and would have a lot of good information to share. So yes, there is communication with all the agencies. We don't have an MOU. That's something that we definitely need to work on, a memorandum of understanding or agreement.
Okay. Are you going to be tracking results or outcomes? I guess I would anticipate that assuming this bill goes through and those 5 positions are funded, that you're coming back with a report, because I would imagine the complaints would be higher since there'll be more time to investigate those complaints.
Yes, we do submit an annual report with the Executive Office on Aging. And so for sure, you'll see different numbers when we have staff there.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, members? Okay, I do need to make a correction. Gerard Silva testified in opposition, and I had previously said that he was one of the 11 in support. So, any other questions? Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's move on. HB 1883, relating to elections, requires the exterior of the envelope containing the ballot package for elections by mail to include instructions on how to obtain language translation services in Hawaiian and certain other non-English languages. Applies to all elections beginning with a 2022 primary election. That's in August. Okay, nobody having testified in person, but I see Sandy Ma here, so come on up.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. Thank you so much for hearing this important bill, HB 1883. Common Cause supports this measure strongly. Hawaii is the most diverse state in the nation, according to the most recent decadal census. Also, 15% of our citizen voting age population are immigrants. And so we strongly support this bill, which will make it more fair and equitable for non-English speakers, limited English speakers, to be able to meaningfully participate in our electoral process. You have our written testimony before you, and I'm available to answer any questions. We strongly support this measure. Thank you so much for hearing this bill.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else present who wishes to testify in person on HB 1945? Okay, those on Zoom. 1883. Excuse me, sorry. 1883. Yes, I already did 1945 earlier, sorry. Okay, 1880. Those who have registered on Zoom, I see Afirak Bamrum Rungwan of Office of Language Access. Please proceed and support.
Good afternoon, Chair San Buenaventura, Vice Chair Ihara, and member of the committee. The Office of Language Access stand on our written testimony in support of this measure, and we will be available for any question the committee may have. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Office of Elections, Scott Nagao in support. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. The Office of Elections stands on its written testimony in support and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next, Sandy Ma already testified in person. Nobody else having registered to testify on Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to testify on HB 1883? Okay, questions, members? Okay, go ahead, Senator Misalucha.
Sandy.
Who, with whom?
Sandy Mom.
Okay.
And I know just, when I read your testimony, you said this bill doesn't go far enough. Right? You said that there can be more that could be done. I'm just curious what
Good
that
start.
would be.
Yes, so this is just a notice of language translation services. If possible, it would be wonderful to have translated ballots and instruction materials.
That's where you're going with that. Okay.
It would be wonderful to have it proactively be translated in those languages, but we understand that that would be a cost. And so we know that the State Office of Elections already has language translation available if someone calls up and requests it. And then those materials can be forwarded out. And so this is a first step in order to get those materials provided to people. And so we understand that this could have benefits to the limited English speaking population.
I
So
think
thank you.
outreach should also be done, right? Because those people wouldn't know unless they.
Yes.
So whether it be in all the various civic organizations where they congregate, that outreach should be done.
Yes, and so having notice of language translation materials be available and notice printed on the outside of the ballot that gets mailed to all voters, that is triggering people to understand that there are translation services available. And so we're hoping that is a trigger for people to be able to call and ask if there are other translations available, which Office of Elections does have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I haven't read out and everybody else who testified. So, but since Sandy Ma is present, any other questions of Sandy Ma? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we'd have testifying, written testimony from Hawaii Public Health Institute in support, University of Hawaii, Bonnie Irwin in support, Rex Kidia, City and County of Honolulu City Clerk in support, Hawaii Coalition for Immigrant Rights, Catherine Chen in support, Pat McManaman, Hawaii Rights Friends of Civil Rights in support, Liza Ryan Gill, Hawaii Coalition of Immigrant Rights in support, and Frederick, Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action in support, Lemo Mekan in support, Barbara Bess in support, Sokuda in support, Lori Boyle in support, Marjorie Irwin in support, Major Liu in support, Linda Morgan support, Michelle Mitsumori, Andrea Quinn, David Anderson, Jacobs, 11 people in support, and 1 in opposition, and that's Gerard Silva. Any other questions, members? I have a question of Scott Nagao. Are you present still, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, so you know that this is going to be effective as of in a few months. Will you be able to do it?
No, that's why we said in a testimony that we would ask it to be effective for the 2024 election, because we already began printing our envelopes due to the issues with supplies. We started printing our envelopes already, so to add that in it wouldn't be possible to do it for the 2022 election.
So 2024 election.
Correct. And we already have language on there, not the cover languages in this bill, but we do have cover a notice on the envelope presently in the Federal Voting Rights Act covered languages.
Okay, so that would be the amendment. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our last bill, HB 2424, which is Relating to child welfare services, expands investigative authority of the Department of Human Services to include families with foster children with a pending adoption decree, foster children where adoption decree has been issued but adoption has not yet taken place, children who are placed into legal guardianship and who receive permanency assistance payments, and adopted children who receive adoption assistance payments and against whom a complaint has been filed with the Department of Human Services at any time, including any time prior to adoption or granting of legal guardianship. Requires the Department of Human Services to analyze and report on the impact of expanding home visits to families receiving adoption assistance or legal guardianship assistance, and make a report to the legislature 5 years after the start of the program, appropriates funds for additional caseworker and support staff positions, and increase compensation for existing child welfare services caseworker positions. Okay, first up on HB 2424. Anybody here in person wishing to testify on HB 2424? Okay, on Zoom, we have Lynn Yeomans and James Walter testifying for the Attorney General. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for the opportunity to provide comments on the bill. And as you can see, we provided comments to address a potential constitutional issue, and I'm available for questions if the committee has questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Department of Human Services, State of Hawaii on Zoom.
Hello,
Okay,
Chair.
Yes, I see Daisy Hartfield. Please proceed.
Vice Chair and members of the committee, Daisy Hartsfield, Social Services Division Administrator for the Department of Human Services. The department did submit written testimony, appreciating intent of the bill, providing comments, as well as making recommendations, and we'll stand by the written testimony, and I'm available for any questions. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, nobody else having registered to testify? Anybody on Zoom wishing to testify on Zoom on HB 2424? Okay, seeing none, the written testimony, we have Department of Budget and Finance providing comments, Riker Wada, Office of Collective Bargaining in opposition, Marilyn Yamamoto, Hawaii Family Advocacy Team in opposition, Cindy Evans in support, Tiffany Polister in support, Julie Tinsman in opposition, Dara Carlin opposition. Members, any questions of any of the witnesses? Yeah. Okay, so Senator Ihara has a question. Please proceed.
For the AG's office, Lynn, have you read, seen the Department of Human Services testimony?
I saw their testimony on a prior draft. I don't know that I've seen the current testimony.
In their current testimony, they say that as drafted, the bill refers to current law and does not expand investigative authority of DHS. And if the measure passes as drafted, the resulting law would be confusing, as it would appear that there is additional authority when DHS will only have the same authority as it currently has. So I'm just trying to reconcile the two testimonies. Maybe, I'm not sure if the Department of Human Services want to address that.
Sure, I think from the department standpoint, we focused on the complaint, and currently we do investigate complaints that are alleged of families, regardless of whether or not they are families who have adopted children who were formerly in the system or have legal guardianship. So in that regard, that's the way our testimony is drafted, and why we state in our testimony that it would not expand it. So we're looking at it as we currently investigate complaints regardless of who the families are. So that was the perspective that our testimony was based on, which differs from the AG's perspective.
And from you must have a deputy AG for your department. The AG's office raised some constitutional, I guess it would be some constitutional concerns on the current law. So I'm glad this is going to Judiciary and WHAM. No, let's see. Yeah, Judiciary Act and Ways and Means. So those are sticky legal questions that maybe they can focus in more.
So thank you, Senator. I actually am a Deputy Attorney General representing the Department of Human Services. And we just want to clarify, our understanding is that the Department of Human Services is empowered pursuant to authority under Hawaii Revised Statute 350 and Hawaii Revised Statute 587A to investigate reports of abuse. Our understanding on this bill was not that this was about investigating contemporaneous reports of abuse, but that it would be an ongoing authority to investigate particular families if there was something called a complaint that was filed or received regarding those families at some point in the past, so that our understanding of the way the bill is currently drafted would be that this thing called a complaint, which we were unclear on the definition, if it was somehow made at any time in the past, that it would provide ongoing investigative authority to the Department of Human Services, regardless of how recent the report was. And we had concerns that that doesn't appear to be consistent with constitutional case law.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I'm not the attorney.
So I have a question. So I think in the Senate bill version, we actually fixed it by referring to the statute that requires a more recent complaint. And I don't think you objected to that. But since we're not looking at the Senate version, which is substantially different from this House version, if we remove section 2, which Department of Human Services also says so very duplicative, do you have any constitutional concerns?
So if the same.
So section 2 is the investigation part, right? The rest of it that we're keeping in is just appropriation part. And I think we're taking out, yeah.
Yes, that is correct. And then.
So you're okay with that, right?
Yes. And the other option, again, is to add that language in accordance with existing authority under chapters 3.
Yeah, which is what we did on the Senate bill version.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. I have a question of Daisy Hartfield. Hi.
Hi.
So this bill has an appropriation of, and I think it has a blank amount to fill vacancies and retain employees in existing child welfare case worker positions. Have you folks figured out the amount you need?
I don't know how to answer that because it's like yes and no. In the other version, the Senate version of the bill, or I'm sorry, in a prior draft, we actually estimated it on the number of positions that would be needed. But as this bill has evolved, the numbers have changed in terms of how much staff would be needed. So, so the numbers are changing. So at this point, I'm not sure what it is. I know we were looking at an additional 40 positions at one point, but I believe that is going to change depending on what happens with the bill. So I don't have a definitive answer right now.
So for section 3 and section 4, For section 3 is creating positions, but doesn't say how many positions and has a blank appropriation. You don't have any figures for those either.
Not right now, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, let's recess for decision making. Recalling the 3 o'clock calendar of the Human Services Committee. First up, we are going to be voting on HB 1745 HD1, appropriating funds to support Hawaii's food banks, appropriates funds to, Chair's recommendation is that we are going to ensure that there is a 1% allocation to the Office of Community Services to administer funds appropriated pursuant to this act. But we're also going to add in the Senate language of 10% allocation to the food bank in each county as administrative funds based on the county's proportional share of the state's poverty population as set forth in the latest small area income and poverty estimates issued by the United States Census Bureau or SAPE, and the remainder shall be allocated to the food bank in each county as food purchase funds using the SAPE formula. Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, to pass with amendments, Vice Chair.
We're voting on the chair's recommendation to pass Senate House Bill 1745 HD1 with amendments. Chair San Buenaventura.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Ocasio.
Aye.
Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. For HB 1754, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. We are going to insert the preamble in section 1, language 2 from SB 1294 SD2. We're going to choose option 2 for this bill and amend the effective date into an effective one of effective upon approval, and any blank appropriation amount to be the same as that for option 2. Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
With all members of the Committee on Human Services present, we're voting on any reservations or objections to the chair's recommendation to pass House Bill 1754 with amendments. Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. HB 1824, Chair's recommendation is to insert on line 4 5 full-time employees, 5 FTEs, and change a defective date into an effective one of effective upon approval. Any comments, questions, and concerns? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Any reservations, objections to the chair's recommendation to pass House Bill 1824 with amendments? Recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. For HB 1945 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments to remove lines 9 to 12 on page 6 and leave a blank, general blank appropriation amount. Any comments, questions, and concerns, and the SMA recommendations, which are basically tech amendments. Any comments, questions, and concerns? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair
For the chair's recommendation to pass House Bill 1945 with amendments, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted.
So for HB 1883, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. We are going to add a new section per common cause to say that this act does not exempt or supplant the requirements of Section 203 of the Federal Voting Rights Act. We are also going to amend Section 4 to make the act to reflect the 2024 primary election instead of the 2022 primary election, and otherwise make it effective upon approval. Any comments, questions, and concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Any objections or reservations to the recommendation to pass House Bill 1883 with amendments? Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Okay, for HB 2424, Chair's recommendation is to remove Section 2 per everybody's testimony, DHS and the Attorney General, and add to Section 6 a statement saying, any increased compensation shall be a subject of collective bargaining with the aim of filling all vacancies expeditiously. And any technical non-substantive amendments as stated by SMA. Any comments, questions, and concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
For the recommendation to pass House Bill 2424 with amendments, any objections or reservations? The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, so we are adjourning the 3 o'clock calendar and calling the 105? 115 calendar. So for Chair's recommendation for the decision-making on HB 1749 HD1 is to pass with amendments. We are going to delete the Sunshine Law exemption at page 7, lines 9 to 11. And per Catholic Charities recommendation that one of the community members, either House or Senate, be one with lived experience of homelessness. Otherwise, no further amendments. Any comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Any reservations or objections to the recommendation to pass House Bill 1749 with amendments? Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Okay, for HB 1744 HD2, Chair's recommendation is to remove page 4, section 3, lines 10 to 13, which I believe is the procurement section, and add in amendments, section 1, add a third purpose at the bottom of the preamble, which is authorizing the Department of Human Services to establish a homeless triage center pilot to provide temporary shelter and referral services for homeless adults with serious mental illness, chronic medical conditions, or chronic substance abuse, and add a new part, section A, is establish a 5-year homeless triage center pilot program to be administered by the Department of Human Services. The purpose of the homeless triage center shall be to provide temporary shelter and referral services for homeless individuals with serious mental illness, chronic medical conditions, or chronic substance abuse. Pilot program shall assist homeless adults to access appropriate treatment, shelter, care, and housing. And B, the homeless triage center pilot program shall cease to exist on June 30, 2027. Add another section, there is appropriated out of the general revenues of the state of Hawaii the sum of $2,500,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 for establishment, implementation, and administration of the homeless triage center pilot program established under this act. The sum appropriated shall be expended by Department of Human Services for the purpose of this act and may be used for necessary administrative and other costs of implementation, including one full-time equivalent planner or specialist position, and SMA technical amendments, and include a defect date. Any comments, questions, and concerns? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
For the last vote of the day for Human Services, we're voting on the Chair's recommendation to pass HB 1744 with amendments. Chair San Buenaventura.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ihara votes aye. Senator Ocasio.
Aye.
Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
It's unanimous. The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.